I think some people sent some questions, so
Sure.
let's see what they did. I wrote everything down. What is the end goal? Like, what do you want to achieve with your research?
Yeah, I think I never really expect like, more successes like on a personal level. I think when I first started doing research on fandoms, even at the One Direction level, and then now with BTS and ARMY, like
Yeah.
I myself have always been really passionate about helping to shift that narrative on fandoms and fans in general. And we talked about this, right? How people stereotype fandoms as just simply teenagers who are mindless, don't know anything, but that's really not the reality of it. And so I hope that with my work on top of many others' works, we can help to shift that narrative and hopefully inform more people outside of fandoms that this is something that we should take seriously and something that could be applied to so many other disciplines and so many like other fields. So there's that. And then I hope that for ARMY, I hope that the end goal of all of this research that comes out is that they continue to learn more about themselves as a fandom and really feel excited at the impact that they've been able to achieve, because it really is rare, and I'm fairly confident this time around that we're probably not going to see something like this again for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And so I hope that they learn a lot about themselves as opposed to just being like, okay, we love BTS and, we have all these records, but like, how can they go like more in depth to really like learn about their relationships and interactions with each other? Because it is pretty amazing. So I hope they find value in that. And then me, myself, I don't know. I still have another 3 years with my PhD, so I'll figure out what I want to do after that.
Yeah, you never know where it's going to take you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the postdoc is always an option.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Did you find anything that was like surprising to you about the fandom, about the trends, about how the fandom interacts through your research?
I don't think I was surprised. I knew coming into it that there was like a certain level of power and impact with the fandom. I think it's to the like what level, that's what I didn't know. And so if anything, it was more shocking in a good way just to see like it was exceeding my expectations. I mean, like for instance, again, in tracking worldwide trends, I couldn't believe how many they create every month. Like it's so fascinating to me. And and again, like I knew how global of an impact ARMY and BTS had, but seeing it like on the maps, for instance, like that was the first time it like really hit me. And so like those little moments kind of help to shape my perception of that impact. And again, which is why like data like that is so important, because we think to ourselves like, yeah, we know that they have an impact and they're that big, but like just how big and how impactful are they? Like I don't know. But then being able to see that data is just like in your mind, it's so mind-blowing, like even bigger than you would think. So yeah, not surprised, but again, it's definitely exceeded a lot of my expectations, and it still continues to. It keeps growing and getting bigger in the fandom, and like they keep breaking records that I don't think that they're going to break anymore, and it just keeps going and going. And it kind of makes you wonder, like, is it just going to keep going, or is there going to be like this threshold where they're like, okay, like, and I mean, we're going to start seeing it too, right? Like as armies and continue to do all of these things, it's helping to transform like a lot of like systems, especially on social media. So I'm curious to see if platforms like YouTube, for instance, which I know there's a lot of like issues there, like are there going to be new changes to it to make sure that they keep track of these views better? I don't know. If Spotify and those music platforms, are they going to start shifting a little bit based on because when you look at like armies, they stream things so much and at like such a big pace. Like they're competing against themselves at this point, which is interesting. And so I have a feeling that different organizations and social platforms are going to start looking at the way they measure these types of metrics just based on that. But I don't know. I see that as a good thing, though.
I wouldn't be surprised if like Spotify doesn't put BTS on like playlists, because we stream so much, because they want to like they grade it on a curve and they want to like fix it a bit so it won't be so dramatic when BTS are the most streamed group.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I mean, like I said, it is quite fascinating. Like they're competing against themselves at this point. And we're not really seeing anyone else kind of like touch those records. I mean, every once in a while, like maybe, but then Army comes back and breaks those records again. So it's like, it's kind of this cycle. So, I mean, like I said, I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing. I just see it as, platforms shaping and transforming due to Army's impact. So I think that has a lot to say on a good note of what Army's doing in terms of those platforms. So
we saw YouTube making dramatic changes with streaming and how they measure it.
Yeah.
How good that algorithm is remains to be questionable.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, but
No
it's
idea.
really interesting to see how social media develops in the upcoming years. Because like we said, like 15 years ago, there wasn't. It was just starting. Like Facebook was coming up. It wasn't. We couldn't have known what was going to happen now.
Yeah.
Now we have TikTok, and we have all these new platforms coming up, and you don't know what's going to replace what. One day, one of these platforms will be obsolete, and a new one will be formed. Like we see Spotify coming up for radio's throat, and radio might decide they're no longer like. They're at the impasse now. They can be either Netflix or Blockbuster.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think so many current platforms will face that same dilemma. And we don't know what's going to come that's going to be new and change the whole the way we do things.
Yeah, we have no idea. I mean, like, can you imagine? I mean, I remember when all those platforms started coming out, it was around that like 2006 2007 2008 time, right? Like everything started coming out. People thought, like, there are some people who thought it was like the silliest thing, like, why do we even need these things? But like now it's so ingrained in our daily lives and in our own societies. Like it's so important to us. And so yeah, I mean, anything could happen tomorrow. I have no idea what new platforms are going to come out or how things are going to shift. So it'll be interesting to see all of that, and then to see how fandoms and to see how Army adapts to those types of platforms. But yeah, it's all so interesting. Yeah.
Do you find it weird that out of all the social platforms that there are out there, that Twitter became Army's home?
No, not surprised. I think it all comes back down to like each social media platform's like functions and what they're there for and what people can use them for. Twitter is like the perfect platform to interact with other people, to promote things, to be as engaged as possible. So it's definitely the best place for Army to thrive. And so I think whether or not they realize that, it was just the perfect home for Army. But again, it's not to say that Army isn't on other platforms, because there's certainly lots of them, millions of them on things like Instagram and Facebook, and we have Weavers, but that interaction and that engagement doesn't exist. And I think that's what makes Army so impactful on things like Twitter. And a lot of things that happen on Twitter are really, really impactful. I mean, when you just think about it, a lot of people wake up every day and the first thing they check is Twitter to see like what's happening in the news, right? So that platform in itself has become really powerful just to the normal person. So yeah, I think that engagement piece that Twitter has, it's probably what's its most unique aspect. And then the fact that it has trends too makes it really special. But yeah, all in all, I'm definitely not surprised. I mean, that was the place where like One Direction fans thrived as well. So it only made sense that if social media was going to evolve, then Army were still going to be on that same platform, and then they were going to elevate it even more. Yeah, I just don't know if, like I said, there's a lot of Armies on Instagram, but I don't really know how impactful that is, because it almost feels like Armies are just kind of in their own.
No, Instagram, it's mostly focused. I think you're very right. I think it's all about the communication.
Yeah.
And the ease of it. Like Facebook is too convoluted, and I think, and also doesn't have that same safe environment that Twitter has.